Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining what we think and hope to be a really exciting and engaging conversation. We have not, while I'm a consultant, we have not planned for any slideware. It's a conversation that we are going to have about this topic. I know it's top of the mind for a lot of the clients and as consumers as well. The topic, as you can see, is how is the real transformation of customer service and customer operations happening using the contact center cloud technologies, AI, and data. That's the topic, and I'm honored to have, so I'll introduce myself, and then I'll introduce my fellow panelists. So I'm Sachin Karnar. I'm a partner at PwC Advisory. I have the pleasure of leading what we call as our digital contact center and service offering. All things AI, cloud, and technology, from strategy to execution. And I have the pleasure and honor of having my clients from Florida Power and Light. I'll let them introduce themselves. But before they introduce, just a couple of things. While we'll have the conversation, we'll pause for some questions along the way and toward the end as well. So keep them coming. So maybe Solange, why don't you start kind of with your introduction? Right?
Sure. Good afternoon. I'm very excited to be here. My name is Solange Soto. I have the privilege to be part of a transformational program for our employees and our customers at Florida Power and Light. FPL is a large utility in Florida that currently serves 6 million customers and is one of the many businesses within NextEra Energy. NextEra Energy itself is a clean leading company, is one of the largest renewable operators in the world with the mission to provide a sustainable future for generations to come. And at FPL, we're very excited to be in this journey where we are designing the future of customer employee experiences. And one of our missions is to provide a seamless, intelligent ecosystem where our customer needs could be predicted and resolved very easily for them. And to achieve this, we have a very strong partnership with our IT teams where we're working together as one. And in fact, we always say that this is not a technology project, it's not a technology program. And in order to honor this, we make every decision based on customer data and also following the guiding principles of a unified architecture that will continue to allow us to build for the future to continue to meet our employee and our customer needs, right? And notice that I have mentioned employees a lot, and that's because we're not just engaging on this project to build amazing customer experiences, although we want that, but for us it's very important to not forget the employee. We strongly believe that when we give our employees the right tool, the right technology, and the right insights, they will create and provide an awesome customer experience.
Thank you. Shankar, maybe time for your introduction.
Sure. So I'm the IT partner in crime with Solange next to me, and we have a few members of the team in the audience. So really excited to be here. So Shankar Sengupta, and we're leading what we call a digital transformation. And during the discussion, you realize that when we started this journey about 4 years ago, digital transformation at the scale we're trying to achieve was not really the goal, but we'll walk you through the journey because it is a journey, right? Really, I think a couple of things that Solange said is we're going to talk about architecture. And I think the overriding principle that's guiding us on this journey is really the omnichannel experience. So you'll hear a lot about omnichannel experience, customer journeys, which also Solange will touch on, and really how to make that painless and seamless for our customers and leveraging all the wonderful technology that is available to us, some of which you heard this morning. So that's really what we're going to talk about today.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. So maybe, Solange, I think you started maybe talking about the vision. So can you elaborate more on the vision that drove this digital transformation?
Yeah, our vision is very simple. We just want to create and provide the best customer and employee experiences that would hold the test of time, right? And again, this is with the customer and the employees at the center of it. And a big part of that is omnichannel experiences, contextual experiences. We want to make sure that our customer feels that they're interacting with a brand that is intelligent and smart, that our employees have all of that background and insights of where the customer has been. And AI, I think, has a little role in it. I'm sure we'll talk more about that.
And I know the vision is actually to build the future, right? So if you can kind of share more about that.
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're not starting from zero, right? That's one of the big things. We have great containment rate in our IVR today. We have a website and digital channels that perform very well. Our employees are very efficient. So part of our vision for us is just to create the best experiences for employees and our customers, create the experiences of the future, but also operationally, our metrics need to be the same, if not better. So that's also one of a big point for us, right? We have to just perform better than when we are today. Less is not an option.
Yeah, and the containment rate, I mean, that's pretty high, like 70-80+% containment in the current state, right? So that's it's an interesting kind of journey that we are together to make sure it improves and while transforming the experience. But that means the tech strategy and the journey around this, Shankar, needs to be even more cutting edge. So maybe share more about that.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I alluded to this earlier, is when we really started this journey 4 years ago, I had a very simple mission, and it was not, again, a large-scale digital transformation. What I was trying to do is when I walked into the job, I inherited a portfolio of 250+ applications purely in the customer service space. So really the exercise that we embarked upon was how to rationalize that portfolio, right? And there were 3 things that kind of stood out. First is the quality of the data. Data was everywhere, but the quality couldn't be guaranteed, right? There were ETLs running all over the place with its own set of logic. At the end of the day, if you asked one group what is an active outage, you would get different answers depending on which group or which channel you're talking to. Make sense? And then I think the second is we really had a swivel chair experience, right? Because there was no architectural oversight in how we designed solutions. So same end-to-end process, whether it be the employee or whether it be the customers interacting with us, had to go to multiple systems to really complete a task or even get information about, let's say, their work order or service order that is with us. And then inevitably what had happened is most of these technologies underlying the 250 applications were end of life, right? So either we were unable to maintain them or support them, or we were paying a premium because a lot of the vendors were out of business at this point. So we were paying a premium to a third-party vendor to keep these alive, right? So going back to the question that Sachin asked is, so we decided that the path forward would be to consolidate our application portfolio and start refactoring, re-architecting, whatever you want to call it, into the cloud platforms. So I think that was guidance number 1 is we will migrate to the cloud. And for those of you in the audience who are with the utilities, cloud is not the natural first stop when you're talking to a utility, because there are some accounting things that we had to kind of work through to take our solutions to the cloud. But going to the cloud gave us 3 advantages, right? And obviously Amazon is part of the journey. We are working with other SaaS vendors in the CRM and ERP space. But it really kind of unified data models, so the data problem would be taken care of. Obviously, it's the vendor's responsibility to keep up with the software and pushing out updates, right? And then I think the most important thing, and then we'll get to AI, is really compute at scale, but pay as you go, right? So I think those were the 3 things that really guided our application rationalization strategy. But then it led to the journey we're going to talk about, if that makes sense. So we really didn't start out with a grand vision of, innovation and digital transformation. It was purely making our day-to-day operational life easier, but it took us down a very exciting and innovative path. Okay.
Shankar mentioned processes, and I think it's worth mentioning that the way that we're looking at this program when it comes to prioritization and what we're focusing on is that we don't just have a list of requirements or features, we're truly emphasizing the customer journey and the data journey as a result of that, right? So it's very important that we have invested time on designing the customer journey and linking that to value streams, and that's how we are working together as one, right, on prioritizing how the technology is going to support that, to support the customer across the different channels, different touch points that they're going to have with the brand, and also the priority of the build overall.
Mm-hmm. And that's, as the consulting partners, that's the type of client we want, like, who appreciate the type of, the time taken to prioritize, anchor around the journeys and the value aspects of it, not only the engineering parts of it. Before we get into, so thank you for sharing the macro level overview of the vision and the strategy. Before we get into specific, let me kind of understand the audience so we can kind of double click on some of the areas. So who all of you are from customer operations or the business side here? Like anybody? All right. How about IT or customer technologies? Data analytics, AI? Okay, so we have a good mix. Okay, that's what we were expecting. So maybe let's start with, I think Solange, you started there on because this is a very kind of simple vision, but complex from a journey perspective. How is the actual execution structured? You mentioned value streams, journeys, et cetera. So how are we making sure that the execution is aligned with that? So can you share more about that?
I mean, we have a wonderful team of experts that are great at what they do. We have journey owners, right, that their job is to come up with the design of this journey to the vision, put it on paper, and we also have what we call channel-specific product owners that ensures that, alongside with the journey owners, that the experience being designed for the specific channel keeps the integrity of the channel and is not something that is fragmented per journey, while the journey owner's job is mostly across channels, right, to ensure that however the customer deals with us, it makes sense, right, for the customer. So at the organizational level, we're also structured in value streams and work streams, where we have work stream leads that their job is to ensure that the scope of work within their work stream gets done and executed, and are thinking at that level, not so much at the product ownership granular level. And all of that, there is major collaboration with the journey owners and working together to ensure the value streams, the work stream leads, and the journeys are being prioritized in the right way.
Yeah, makes sense. And I know there's a strong emphasis on conversational AI design as well. I think that's as part of the structure that really informs how the things are executed, are designed and executed. So switching gears a little bit, from a platform perspective, Shankar, like share, I mean, you mentioned the tech strategy around app rationalization, but specifics on platform, can you share about that?
Yeah, I think, again, where we started, I think it was quite overwhelming what I inherited as a portfolio. And in my previous tenure, the previous professional tenure, we had significantly invested in platforms, right? Which I think was a big gap when I walked into this job a few years ago. Is really, I think there were really two constraints, and then let me elaborate on them. One constraint was an over-reliance on on-premise software, right? Which is, again, driven by some of the accounting treatments or constraints that we had, especially at a utility. So there was a really desire to build, and we always built on-prem, and it was a vertical architecture, not really scope for scaling out, right? And I think the other thing is, even when we did go buy vendor software, we made our lives overly complicated by buying best-of-breed software, okay? that is, oh, this piece of software is really good at calling back a customer, right? Which could be very different from a product that's sold by the contact center, right? And then we tried our best to hook the two systems together from a data exchange perspective. And after a while, you know how it goes, is things were not working the way they were supposed to be, or one software did a version upgrade which broke the other one, right? So I think so that's why we really focused on the platform, is really look at the Amazons and am I allowed to say Salesforces of the world, right? Is really where they brought us those capabilities. It's a seamless capability on a platform, wing to wing. So I didn't have to go around, architecting integrations to talk between different technology platforms, right? And I think one thing that was a little bit of a cultural piece of this, it wasn't technology, is you could argue that best of breed brought you more functionality, right? But I think going back, working with our business partners is, okay, you have this best of breed, but you're only using 50% of the capabilities. So are we in a position to kind of negotiate a little bit and say, hey, okay, maybe a platform strategy, wing to wing, a platform's trying to do all these functions, right? It may not be on par with the best of breed one-off solution, but are you okay with it? And that's been the partnership that Solange is talking about. And I think what we've realized with vendors like AWS, most of you saw the presentation this morning, is capabilities that are not available today. I'm not going to base my decision on that because I know they're in a position to release that capability in a few months. And we are perfectly okay to wait till they release the functionality rather than trying to do custom build on our own, if that makes sense.
I think just to add to that, from a business perspective, I think it was definitely, took us time, right, to get there. Oh, sorry.
I think you're fine. You're operational. I'll just pull this up.
Yeah. So, but I mean, the world has changed, right? And although we always wanted safety and security and best of breed and making sure that what we have was the best and the most reliable, we also realized that there is a risk of staying behind and not going up to, evolving with the technology, and customers' expectations are evolving, right? So I think that's also the big piece of how we came together on that.
Yeah, just one quick anecdote. In the field services space, we had 11 applications or 11 entries in our CMDB database. 11 entries, of which 3 were purely reporting applications. So we were busy all night running ETLs, porting data from our previous CRM into those reporting applications, right? And that's, again, so digital transformation may not have been at the top of my priority list, but that's what I was trying to avoid, right? So go look for a platform that can fulfill those or replace those 11 applications or the capabilities those applications provide in one unified platform with one data model. Make sense?
Switching gears to the AI topic, how, given the reimagination of the experience you're referring to from customer and employee perspective, what kind of role AI is playing as part of that to enable that, and AI including the traditional analytics as well as the generative AI?
Yeah, I mean, AI is at the core and the center of self-service experiences mainly. So outage has been mentioned a couple of times. We're a utility, after all, and we're Florida, so we get a lot of hurricanes. So one of our higher contact types or call types is an outage experience type of call. Or interaction in any channel for that matter. So we recently finished designing the outage experience for our conversational channel. And what we did there, I mean, conversational AI is at the center of what was used there. But we also use generative AI where it makes sense. And it's very important for us to have this hybrid AI approach where we use the right type of AI for the right use case. So for example, the customer might call in, and initially we ask them, how can I help you? Now, instead of giving you a menu of, if you're calling for outage, say outage. And if you set power out, you will fail, right? But now, because we have fallback intents and we have generative AI plugging on the right places, customer can freely, humanly speak, right? Instead of speaking like a machine. And that experience is going to change the game. The other piece, too, is that you could interact with a self-service channel today, let's say an IVR, that's what we're talking about. And you answer all the questions, and this says, okay, I got it, here's your ticket number. But as a human, sometimes we have the need to share a little bit more because something peculiar happened, right? And in the experiences that we have today, although we perform very well, the customer feels the need to say, I heard a loud bang, or the transformer blew up on the corner of my street. And we cannot handle that free form of a speech today. So that makes the customer having to exit to speak to an agent. So now we're talking about efficiency, just because our awesome system today cannot handle that. So one of the improvements that we have done using generative AI is allowing the customer to say, is there anything else you would like to add, right? And being able to freely speak. And if the customer feels that, at the end of it, that they still want to talk to a human, one of our big beliefs with this project is technology when you want, and a human when you want one, and technology when you don't. So, the customer still is going to be able to exit and speak to an agent, but not because the experience on the self-service channel couldn't have fully handled it to the expectations that we know our customers have, right? So that's one piece of it. You mentioned predictive analytics. So we're actually working through that one right now. Again, how can I help you? As opposed to a menu type of interaction. And when the customer authenticates, we're building all this data to understand, okay, what has the customer experience with the brand been within X amount of time, right? What is going on that account? What is going on those accounts, right? Trying to not deal with an account, but deal with a person, right? If it is somebody that has more than one account, and making sure that we have predictive intent and suggest to the customer based on priority from a business perspective, but also understanding the customer interactions in X amount of time, and suggest to them, is this what you need? Are you calling about this? And if the answer is no, let the customer do what they want, but circle back and say, hey, and by the way, I don't know, there is a payment coming up, right? And that's how we're using predictive analytics and predictive intent to provide a full contextual experience. And I know I'm focusing mainly on the conversational channel, but our plan with this hybrid AI and unified architecture is that we want to make sure that we can plug this in any channel, whether it's an agent, whether it's online, on the web. Hope that answers.
Yeah, I think let me also kind of come at it a little bit from a technology and data perspective to kind of help you understand the journey. So in my humble opinion, I think a lot of us have been doing AI, but we've been doing it as what I call after the event kind of analytics, right? So think about a call. At this point in time, we get the call transcripts, but we only get them as a batch after the event, right? And then I have a data science team that for the last 3 years have been doing predictive analytics by running not GPT-3, but there were versions of GPT before that did a fine job of picking out phrases and mapping them to intent. So we've been doing it, but we've been doing it, what I would say, in a data science lab kind of environment, right? And what happens is you gain some insight, and you take those insights, and then you go through another round of operationalizing it, if that makes sense, right? I think where the game is now changing with both Gen AI and technologies like Lex is that we can make happen in real time, right? As you're listening to conversations, all this insight that you've gained, like, okay, these 3 phrases map to this intent, can be filled into Lex slots, okay? And now if somebody comes in with a 4th interpretation that leads to the same intent, that's where we have the Gen AI fallback, right? So it's more of a journey. We've been doing it, but we've been doing it after the fact. When it might be too late to influence the conversation. So real-time AI brings us the opportunity now to be able to influence a conversation as it's happening, whether it be sentiment, whether it be intent, and intents are fluid. You start with one thing, you shift over to something else, right? Which is hard for rule-based systems to. And so this kind of goes back to what I said earlier, is AI is computing intensive, right? And we couldn't really do this before or today because most of our systems are on-prem, and we really have done a bad job of vertically sourcing our hardware, anticipating the load, right? So I don't think we're really set up for real-time AI with the technology that we have till we move to the cloud, right? We were very encouraged to hear the cost reductions in some of these technologies that we're using. So this is a maturation process, and I think we'll all reap the benefits of it. Hopefully, I answered your question, right? But I think it keys on the customer intent. It is really the ability to understand why the customer is here, even before they start speaking or even before they start typing on any of the channels, because we have this whole unified data model that should be informing, I think this is why the customer is here. And then once they start speaking or typing, that's when the real-time AI picks up, right? And that's how we drive this conversation or drive this experience. And it needs to be from channel to channel, right? So we talk about omni-channel, and if I'm allowed to speak for one more minute, I know I'm hogging here, but it's really, I think one of the guiding principles of as we've now kind of talking about omni-channel experiences, I, as a customer, if I was just on the web trying to do something, and for whatever reason I jumped to the chat bot next or the voice bot next, the voice bot needs to know in real time what I, as a customer, was doing on the web. Whether I was happy, did I complete the transaction, was there anything that wasn't getting done, right? Because then I can tweak how we are talking to the customer as they're coming into the next channel. And this needs to happen in real time. So I don't know if we're going to talk about APIs. APIs are a big part of our strategy. And some of the database technologies that were talked about this morning with very low latency reads and writes, that is, the channels should be publishing customer interaction metrics so that the next channel has immediate availability. Because the assumption is that the customer is going to go the very next second to the next channel. And our goal is to make sure the next channel knows where the customer has been and what their experience was. Okay?
Just before,
Thank you for teeing up next topic.
I thought we covered the topic. Okay, we can dive further.
Just want to mention before we go away from AI into APIs, fun. One of the things that now we can do, to your point, we've been using AI for years before your team, but now it's not only AI features for the customer, we also use it in the program for the build, the design, and then ultimately, surfacing it for the customer experience on the different channels. And that also brings a lot of efficiencies when it comes to such a large transformational program with so many product delivery teams. So we're using it to design the experiences, and we're using it for test cases writing, user story writing, and then ultimately on how we're plugging in the right type of AI on the customer-facing experiences as well.
Thank you. So, obviously this is the topic close to all of our hearts and hopefully the audience. Just to summarize, it's AI being used throughout the contact lifecycle, even before the contact starts. So proactively, eliminating the contact, to solve a problem, not to kind of move customer away from contacting, to the contact, during contact, moving it before the fact or during the fact, apart from after the fact, and also delivery life cycle that Solange highlighted. So given the days of if then else tree-based dialogue designs are gone, and but still not completely relying on generative AI. Generative AI guiding the design with conversational AI, as Shankar mentioned, being the anchor to orchestrate when to pull what, to make sure we are being risk averse, cost averse, and also it's being designed to solve a customer problem and a transaction, not only to answer a question.
And I think another point so we talked about platforms, and we've kind of consolidated into 4 core platforms, okay? However, every platform vendor now has an AI solution, okay? So you gotta be careful a little bit, right? As to what, because there's a lot of overlapping functionality between the CRM AI and the contact center AI, and one would hope soon with ERP AI, right? So that is one thing that would be something that you keep an eye on because it can get very confusing, okay? So I don't have honestly a cheat sheet for you, but it's having conversations and understanding, like, do you want to be on one extreme where it is all configuration, or do you want to be on the other extreme where it's all subsumed under the UI? The good thing is the platform vendors that we are working with, they have strong partnerships, and I would advise that you look at that, right? Is where would you, like, if you have a lot of intellectual capital in the AI space, it might be better for you to go with a certain vendor, right? But that's something that I would keep an eye on. It's like everybody's trying to be the next gen AI vendor for you, right? And then how do you thread that needle?
And that's where, to build on that, I'm glad you brought it up. We established a not one size fits all, but a common unified architecture for each of the solution component. Whether it is AI, different classes of AI that Solange was talking about, whether it is data, whether it is the core telephony and routing management, or the case management and other aspects of customer service. And a clear set of guiding principles around keeping the North Star vision in mind and the tech strategy in mind to really make informed choices, to keep it simple. Like, keeping it simple is one of the core guiding principles for the transformation program itself. So we are not kind of building hodgepodge of multiple solutions and then complicating the journey to achieve real omnichannel contextual experience. Right? So just want to add that. All right. So we are talking about a lot of cool stuff, omnichannel context. That's been, so when I started my career as the Genesis Siebel integrator back in the days, that was always the dream. It all came down to data. And my career became like data and analytics guy coming back to contact center. So I'm personally so excited about the focus and the emphasis and the priority on data. So, but maybe if you can share what's the data strategy. So Solange, if you can start, what's the data strategy to enable all of this?
I mean, for us, everything at the journey level, for the journeys that we design and what we prioritize, is based on customer data. So the customer domain, that data from that is how we prioritize the build. Also, was something really important, we don't talk about it much, but as we're building these new journeys and these new experiences and new platforms, it's important to keep in mind the data journey itself, right? Making sure that we're writing data at all points to ensure that we have the data that we need in order to feed these models, in order to provide omnichannel and contextual experiences, for predictive analytics, for MBA, for cross-selling and upselling. So that's something that we're also keeping in mind as we're designing these journeys when we get into the build, is make sure that we are tracking and tagging and logging at the right touch points, everything that the customer sees, does, hears regarding the brand, right? Because otherwise we won't have the data to provide the rich contextual experiences that we have, and we won't have the right data that we need in order to feed these models that are going to predict what the customer needs, what they want to do next, and hopefully also what they might need before they actually contact us, so that we can avoid that contact.
Makes sense.
So I can talk about that from a tech perspective, and I kind of alluded to this, is one of the journeys we started early in terms of the cloud was really around data storage. And you saw I thought, the presentation this morning, walking from SQL to relational to all the new databases was really good. And then so our initial foray into cloud data/storage was really an effort to get rid of our traditional data lakes, okay? So we invested heavily into, mostly RDSs, and then we went to Redshift. However, I think what Solan just said and what we've been reiterating through this conversation, which is the just-in-time omni-channel data availability channel to channel as the customer is surfing, really kind of made us what I call is, and I don't know if you guys are familiar, there's slow lanes in Data Cloud, and then there's fast lanes in Data Cloud. And we had unnecessarily been focused on slow lanes because we were trying to refactor and re-architect our data warehouses, where ETLs ran every night, and we were fine with the slow lane, right? So I think even though we didn't have to change platforms, we had to introduce what we call fast lanes, okay? And fast lanes are simply like, again, as Solange pointed out, is if somebody's doing something on the web, I want it known immediately, sentiment, intent, history, onto the next channel in anticipation of the customer going to that channel, right? So which made us look at, and something that wasn't covered this morning, I think you saw SQL and then non-SQL specialized, if anybody remembers the graphic. So we are investing in some of those specialized databases with low latency reads and writes, because that becomes very important to support this omni-channel experience. New field for us, exciting field for us, and then some of the API investments that we've made, it all comes together, okay? So even though we've been playing again in the cloud data space, our focus was more ETLs and the Redshifts and the RDSs, but now we are starting to invest into specialized read and write databases with low latency. Make sense?
Awesome. How about APIs? I think you touched on it. Maybe let's end the topic with that, last but not the least. What's the API strategy?
So again, I'll pick up from Solange. I think really what we're trying to provide is a consistent experience across channels for the same intent, okay? That is the information we're looking at, the information we're displaying to the customer, or the decisions talk about predictive analytics. If we're making a recommendation, it should be consistent channel to channel for the same intent. It is not that way this time. Remember I talked about outages, 5 different sources, 5 different API technologies, right? So APIs has been the other guiding light. Right after we decided on platforms, we said, okay, we're gonna have API strategy, which is build once, deploy multiple times, okay? So we've invested heavily into APIs with the platform from Salesforce, MuleSoft, and primarily the reason that drove us there was the tight integration into Salesforce, okay? And we've gotten really good at it. One metrics for you is the reusability factor. So we keep a close eye on how many times an API that we build is being reused, okay? And now we are getting really bold, and we are talking about composite services, okay? So this is, I think, Andy Jassy spoke about this morning when he talked about agents talking to agents, and then there's a super agent that's controlling. So same paradigm, same framework on the API side, right? So if there's one intent, right, you turn, and I'm gonna talk utility term here, is if you're trying to turn your power on, okay, that could be 10 different whatever transactions or calls against your backend system, CRM, ERPs, data warehouses, right? That one intent could be a composite API service of 10 micro API services, right? And what the beauty of that is, that fits into this framework of multi-agent orchestration. So again, data is important. The technology that you're reading, writing from, using APIs is important, but you have to invest in a good, sound integration strategy. We were at Dreamforce a few months ago, or a couple of months ago, and then we had a lot of peer discussions. And the thing that kept coming back as the major challenge was integrations, because ultimately you have to talk just in time between the CRM and the ERP. That's unavoidable, okay? And this goes back to the question that you asked, is between the contact center and the CRM, there should be those pipelines set up through these joint product developments that they're doing, so where you're not having to build these integrations on your own, because then all hell breaks loose, okay?
So this is obviously a comprehensive vision strategy. I'm personally fortunate to be part of this journey with you all, but it requires change, right? So in the organization, and how are you kind of getting that commitment to drive change? So if you can share about that.
Executive sponsorship. I mean, for such a large transformational program, that is very, very important. You want your executive team, your leaders involved and supporting you. Our leaders get weekly updates on where we are on this program. They're very involved, they're very supportive, they're out there. Because, I mean, when you're embarking on changing some of the major core technologies that we use today and changing the journeys and the customer experiences, that also changes the organization. And almost every team could get impacted as a result of a transformational program like this one. So you want them involved. And I mean, change management is huge, right? We keep everybody involved of what we're doing, why we're doing it, what's coming, how we're doing, and our executive support. So I would say executive sponsorship is one of the biggest things that we must get right.
Yeah. And we did sign up with I'm trying to come up with the right phrase, but there are firms out there that will come in and do a cultural assessment, prior to a digital transformation as to your readiness and what things you need to focus on. So we invested in that. That is very essential. And I think I keep saying this and I think this was evident in the question that you asked, is what goes to CRM versus what goes to ERP. You remember that this is a journey, and I personally fight certain battles, and on other battles, I do a strategic retreat, okay? Because that's very important. You cannot win every battle because some of those forces are very entrenched until the cultural transformation makes them think otherwise. You got more important things to do and move on, right? Technology is at a point where I don't think you're creating a lot of tech debt, so fight the battles you need to fight. You cannot fight every battle on a digital transformation of this scale, okay? Because it exhausts you at the end of the day, right? Celebrate the wins, and then on some, just take a half a step back. I'm not saying full step back, take half a step back. Everybody will be happy.
So I know we are right at time. Thank you for your engagement. Hopefully you found some of the nuggets helpful, and happy to follow up. I mean, we'll be here throughout the day and offline as well. So thank you for your time.
Mm-hmm.